Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. So hari ini untuk chapter yang kedua kita akan buat secara asinkronus, iaitu melalui pre-recording video lah ataupun video teaching. Okay. Sebabkan saya ada kursus pada hari Khamis, jadi kita tak dapat nak buat kelas secara sinkronus lah. Okay. Walau bagaimanapun, chapter 2 saya dah share di dalam YouLearn dalam bentuk PowerPoint lah. Okay. So yang ini selepas selesai saya buat recording ni, saya akan upload ke dalam YouLearn, dan kehadiran untuk chapter yang kedua akan diambil melalui YouLearn lah. Okay, saya akan keluarkan satu room feedback untuk awak isikan simple question. Just put your what we call the summary of the video content lah for chapter 2. What you have learned in the video in chapter 2. Just bagi summary saja apa yang awak dah belajar dalam video yang awak tonton untuk chapter yang kedua. Okay, so kita start untuk chapter yang kedua. Okay, chapter 2 is about the OSH Act, Standards and Liability. Okay, it's about we focus on the Act of the Occupational Safety and Health, and then related to the standards and also the liability. Okay. Okay, so as usual, we start with the learning outcome for this chapter 2. There are 3 learning outcomes that need to achieve. The learning outcome number 1 is describe the type of standards and regulations that use in OSH field and demonstrate on how to get and download the legislation documents from those website. Okay, and then the learning outcome number 2 is you will be able to describe the Factories and Machinery Act 1967 and its key point contents. And the last learning outcome is you will be able to describe the OSH, OSHA 1994, Occupational Safety and Health Act 1994, and its key point content. Okay. So next, the content that will be covered for this chapter 2, there are 2 kind of act and regulation that's synonymly covered for the safety and health. Okay, safety and health field. The first is the Factory and Machinery Act 1967 and regulations, and the second one is Occupational Safety and Health Act 1994, or we call as the OSHA 1994. Okay, so this slide is already present to you during the chapter 1, which is the chronology. Okay, chronology berkenaan dengan OSH legislation in Malaysia. Before they come out with the OSHA 1994, they come out with the Factory and Machinery Act 1967. Okay, but before that, they only focus on the regulation, standard and regulation, but depending on the demand at that time lah. Okay, for example, for the first enactment, boiler safety enactment is only covered scope for the security boiler machine, including machine gun. And then they go to the Federal Machinery Enactment 1933. The scope is safety of engine, boiler and machinery, including boiler man. Okay, yang menjaga mesin tersebut je lah. Kemudian they cover about the registration and also the inspection of the machine. And then they go to Machinery Ordinance on 1953, and the scope is about the safety of machinery, including person in charge, not only the boilerman during 1930, but in 1953 they already covered, okay, the rule and regulation, including the person in charge, and then also the employees' safety at workplace. Okay. After that, on 1967, which is a Factory and Machinery Act has been introduced, which is to revise. Okay, to revise the Machinery Ordinance 1953, and then they extended the scope to cover HAP. Okay, dalam Machinery Ordinary dia tak cover HAP, only the safety, but for Factory and Machinery Act they already cover HAP issue. And then more specific lah dari segi registration, inspection of the machinery lah. And then kemudian pada tahun 1994 they already cover for OSHA, occupational safety and health. Yang ini dia lebih holistik, di mana dia punya cover lebih meluas dari segi safety and health, okay, kepada employer dan employee, and also the person dia in. Okay, yang ini kita dah tengok dalam chapter yang kedua ini, just revise untuk chapter yang ini kita dah cover dalam chapter yang pertama, tapi untuk chapter yang kedua kita revise untuk kita lihat kronologi bagaimana terciptanya Akta and Act and Regulation of FMA dan juga OSHA 1994. Okay, first we go to the Factories and Machinery Act 1967, or we call as FMA 1967. Okay, the main objective of FMA 1967 is to control the factories with respect to matters relating to the safety, health and welfare of person therein. And then the second one is to conduct the registration and inspection of machinery and for matters connected therein. So kalau kita lihat dekat sini, dia only cover for the machinery lah, machinery yang digunakan di dalam kilang. Okay, Akta ni dia merujuk kepada penggunaan mesin di kilang dan juga penjagaan safety, okay, keselamatan dan kesihatan pekerja yang menguruskan mesin. Okay, kita akan lihat lebih detail lah. Okay, so the arrangement of FMA 1967. Okay, there are 6 parts. Okay, dalam FMA 1967 ni, okay, dia punya susunan dia adalah first preliminary, di mana di dalam ni ada definition ataupun general definition yang digunakan di dalam FMA 1967 ni. Kemudian part yang kedua, dia cover about the safety, health and welfare. Okay, part yang ketiga, person in charge and certificate of competency. And then part yang keempat, notification of accidents, dangerous occurrence and dangerous diseases. Ini this is the duty of the employer. Okay, and then the part 5 is notice of occupation of factory and registration and use of machinery. Okay, part yang keenam is general. General nanti kita akan lihat general ni berkenaan dengan fee and also liability lah. Okay, part yang pertama preliminary, about the definition of factory. Okay, is a premises and its boundaries. Okay, that's the more specific about the factory definition. And then the second one is within the premises there is a manual labor doing process of making, altering, repairing, ornamenting, sorting, finishing, cleaning, washing, breaking, demolishing, constructing, fitting and adjusting. Okay, semua kerja-kerja ni dia didefinisikan sebagai factory lah, yang manual labor. Okay, tenaga buruh yang melakukan proses-proses tersebut. Kemudian the process must be for trading any business. Okay, kemudian definition of factories tidak termasuk kalau premise digunakan bertujuan untuk penyimpanan barang-barangan seperti lokomotif, housing lokomotif or vehicle, where only doing cleaning, washing. Kalau contohnya kedai cuci kenderaan tu tidak dikategorikan sebagai factory walaupun dia menggunakan mesin, tapi mesin yang kecil-kecil lah. Kemudian bengkel-bengkel kenderaan, okay, bengkel-bengkel kenderaan running repairs or manual adjustment are carry out, tidak dikategorikan sebagai factories. Okay. Kemudian any premises where 5 or less person. Okay, kalau pekerja yang kurang daripada 5 atau kurang daripada 5 yang carry on any work in which machinery not used. Machinery not used, even that the premise by virtue of would constitute a factory. Walaupun dia didefinisikan sebagai factory dalam akta ni, tetapi dia tak termasuk, tidak digunakan pakai untuk akta ni jika disebabkan oleh less than 5 person, 5 or less than or 5 person yang carry on, kemudian machinery is not used. Okay, that's a definition yang tak include lah. Kemudian still under the preliminary, which is a part 1, interpretation about machinery. Okay, ini bermaksud ini interpret about the machinery or the definition about machinery, which is include the steam boiler, unfired pressure vessel, fired pressure vessel, pipeline, prime mover, gas cylinder, gas holders, hoisting machines and tackle, transmission machinery, driven machinery, material handling equipment, amusement device, or any other similar machinery and any equipment for casting, cutting, welding or electro deposition of materials. Okay, semua benda-benda ni kalau kita lihat contoh unfired pressure vessel ni, ini yang related to the air compressor, okay, yang tank yang menggunakan pressure untuk hold the air ataupun hold the liquid, for example. But for the fire pressure vessel ni bermaksud tank yang menyimpan dalam keadaan pressure liquid yang mudah terbakar lah. Okay, pipeline, okay, prime mover seperti generator and also motor. Okay, hoisting machine ni contohnya seperti elevator. Okay, elevator and escalator is a good example for the hoisting machine lah. Okay. Okay, and then the part 2, which is a safety, health and welfare. The key point is premise must be designed with safe access to work areas, material and good must be safely staggered. Okay, this is under the section number 10 in part 2. Okay, kalau kita lihat, okay, saya tunjuk FMA 1967. Okay, ni FMA 1967, di mana dia ada 6 part dan setiap part dia ada section dia. Ini yang saya masukkan section lah. Okay, dan saya dalam slide saya hanya cover beberapa section saja yang penting. Okay, dan kalau kamu lihat kalau kamu hendak lihat untuk secara detail, kamu boleh lihat inilah, download FMA 1967 ni. Saya akan share benda ni di dalam Ulearn, dan saya dah share lah rasanya. Saya dah share di dalam Ulearn, dan sebenarnya benda ni kita boleh download daripada official website DOSH, Department Occupational Safety and Health. Okay. And then another key point for part 2 is machinery must be properly constructed and dangerous part must be fenced. Okay, this is under the section 14, 15 and 16. And then employees must not misuse safety and health equipment. Employees must not to endanger himself or other person. Diorang kena patuh lah rule and regulation yang telah di-enforce oleh employer. Kalau employer suruh menggunakan peralatan safety, dia kena gunakan peralatan safety. Okay, dia must not to endanger himself or other person. Kadang-kadang dia membahayakan diri dia dan efek dia kepada orang lain. Mungkin dia tak fatal accident, tapi orang lain yang jadi fatal accident lah. Okay. Okay, another key point is premise must be keep clean with adequate space, ventilation, lighting and toilets. This is the welfare, section number 22. person must be supplied with adequate facilities for clothing, storage, drinking water, first aid and washing facilities. This must be done by the employer ataupun premise owner lah. Dia mesti kena supply the appropriate clothes accordance to the work task kepada pekerja dia lah. Okay, misal kata pekerja dia melakukan kerja-kerja yang menggunakan mesin, dia kena menggunakan pakaian yang lebih sesuai lah. Kemudian employees must be trained in safety of machinery. Ini mesti, yang ini wajib. Okay, in order to comply the needs of the rule and regulation of FMA, every employees that work with any machinery must be well trained. Okay, because every machinery in the factories must be in charge by the competent person lah. Okay, so the person in charge and certificate of competency. So machinery operator must be adequate trained on or under the supervision of a trained person. And the young person less than 16 years old must not operate machinery. Okay, mungkin disebabkan oleh experience lah. Less than 16 tahun ni dikategorikan sebagai yang kurang pengalaman lah untuk operate the machine. So every machine must be operated by the certificate competent person. Ini saya cakap lah, every machine must be operated must be in charge by the certificate competent person or authorized person issued by the chief inspector. Chief inspector ni bukannya pegawai polis, tapi by definition from this FMA 1967 Act, the definition of chief inspector will be the inspector from DOSH lah. Okay, the competent ataupun the authorized person daripada DOSH. Yang itu dia yang dipanggilkan sebagai inspector, pemeriksa, ketua pemeriksa. And then the machine should not be maintained, dismantled or repaired without written authority. Okay. And then the part number 4, the notification of accidents, dangerous occurrence and dangerous diseases. Okay, this is about the notification, how to the employer must notify for any accident and dangerous occurrence lah. The occupier must notify the nearest inspector. Nearest inspector of accidents and disease include the loss of life. Okay, any incident that's involve the loss of life or injury to a person who lost more than 4 days work lost injury time. Okay, yang kehilangan pekerjaan selama 4 hari lah, bermula daripada hari kejadian injury tu, kejadian injury lah. Kemudian the serious damage must be notified if serious damage to machinery or other property occur lah. Okay, dia kena notify kepada nearest inspector, and then the inspector may investigate that accidents and dangerous occurrence and hold inquiries or more serious cases. Dia akan bawa ni sebagai case lah. Okay, and then the part number 5 is about the notice of occupation of factory and registration and use of machinery. Okay, notify DOSH ataupun chief inspector ataupun authorized chief inspector from DOSH within 3 months of the intended start dates, and then the building operation must be notified not later than 7 days. Okay, and the changes to the use of factory or machinery must be notified to DOSH. Dia tak boleh sewenang-wenangnya kita menggunakan mesin tanpa kebenaran daripada pihak DOSH, sebab setiap mesin memerlukan lesen dan juga permit dari yang dikeluarkan daripada DOSH certificate. Okay, and then any changes in order to notify notify the occupation of the factory and about the registration, this is the standard. Okay, the standard flow, which is fill up the standard form. First, give the information about the layout plan of factory, and then the list of manufactured product, and then the list of machine to be used, and list of chemicals, toxic or flammable substance if any, and details flow chart of work process. This is the flow the supporting document required in order to register to the DOS lah. Okay. The duty of the occupier to report to the inspector for the any structural change in the factory. Okay. So kalau ada any structural change dalam kilang tu pun kena notify kepada pihak inspektor lah, hantar laporan. Okay, part 6 general, which is about the any loss or damage caused by the licensed person ataupun competent person ataupun the authorized person by the which is authorized by the DOSH. Act or during carrying out his duty should not be personally liable unless it was caused intentionally or negligence by them. Bermaksud kat sini diorang tak personally tak ditanggung lah apa-apa kesalahan ataupun apa-apa apa maksud dia dipanggil apa fine okay, diorang tak tanggung segala macam mana cakap, Allah, dia punya ni kalau berlaku apa-apa loss ataupun damage yang dilakukan oleh authorized person ni semasa dia melakukan kerja, dia sepatutnya tidak dihadapkan kepada kesalahan tu ke atas dia sahajalah. Okay, dan any regulation penalty, okay, penalty takkan dikenakan kepada dia, melainkan kejadian tersebut adalah disebabkan oleh disengajakan, okay, disengajakan oleh person tersebut. Okay, kalau tak disengajakan tak apa, dia boleh lepas lah. Okay, so any person contravenes the regulations or any other provision of this act shall be guilty of an offence and shall on conviction be liable to fine or imprisonment or to both. Jadi kalau disabit kesalahan, dia boleh dikenakan tindakan denda ataupun penjara ataupun kedua-duanya sekali. Okay, kalau betul-betul didapati bersalah lah. Okay, so this one is a regulation under FMA. Yang tadi tu akta Tadi akta. Yang ini regulation. Okay. So di bawah Factory and Machinery Act, dia ada regulation yang dikeluarkan yang more spesifik kepada safety and health environment, working machinery, and then the compounding of offence and etc. lah. Kalau kita lihat dekat sini, dia berkaitan dengan noise exposure, okay, machinery yang relate kepada mesin tu. Kemudian steam boiler and unfired pressure vessel, dia punya regulation kalau kita nak gunakan steam boiler and unfired pressure vessel, dia lebih spesifik lah. Okay, macam building operation and work of engineering construction pun ada apa dia punya regulation dia yang kena follow. Okay, so benda-benda ni kita sebenarnya boleh capai di laman web utama DOSH. Okay, saya ada sediakan link di sini dan saya demo sikit lah. Okay, sebenarnya ada di laman web DOSH ni. Okay, kita pergi ke bahagian legislation. Okay, legislation dan kita pergi ke bahagian act lah. Okay, sorry, di bahagian regulation. Dan kita boleh lihat di bawah regulation under Factory and Machinery Act 1967. So ada di sini. Okay, banyak. Okay, semuanya kita boleh download secara percuma di laman web DOSH. Okay, so misal kata kalau awak nanti tahun depan dah pergi ke lighting industry, okay, kalau company minta awak untuk review any related regulation which under the Factory and Machinery Act, awak boleh rujuk di dalam laman web Occupational Safety and Health lah, Department of Occupational Safety and Health. Okay. Okay. So next we go to the Occupational Safety and Health Act 1994, or we call as OSHA 1994. Okay, what is the objective of OSHA 1994? To make further provision for securing the safety, health and welfare of person at work, for protecting others against risk to safety or health in connection with the activities of person at work, to establish the National Council for Occupational Safety and Health and for matters connected therewith. Tadi yang FMA tadi dia lebih kepada machinery. Okay, dia akta ataupun pelindungan akta pelindungan ke atas pekerja yang bekerja menggunakan mesin di kilang, di mana akta-akta ataupun rules yang dikenakan kepada premis, okay, kepada pekerja dia, apa tanggungjawab premis kepada pekerja dia. Okay, tapi untuk OSHA 1994 yang ini dia lebih meluas. Okay, dia lebih meluas, iaitu dia lebih kepada tanggungjawab person tu, okay, ataupun pelindungan ke atas person tu dari segi safety and health lah. Okay, untuk OSHA 1994 dia consist of 15 parts. Okay, saya ada share di dalam Yulen juga OSHA 1994. Okay, ini dia punya regulation document dia, akta, okay, Laws of Malaysia. Ada banyak dalam ni dan setiap parts ada section. Okay, awak boleh go through line by line kalau awak nak tahu lebih detail lah. Okay, review, dan di sini dia ada dia punya definition dekat sini, interpretation, council, yang dimasukkan oleh council, yang dimasukkan oleh government, employer, which is for example employer means the immediate employer or the principal employer or both. Okay, masuk occupier, place of work, self-employed person tu maksudnya apa, semua ada definition kat sini lah. Okay, so kalau kita lihat kat sini, ni saya ringkaskan the main topic for each 15 part lah. Okay, setiap part ni untuk preliminary appointment of officer, National Council for Occupational Safety and Health, kemudian duties of employers, designers, the duties of employees itself, and then safety and health organisation. Okay, adalah sampai ke part yang ke-15. Tapi untuk chapter yang ini, okay, saya cover untuk part yang keempat, iaitu general duties of employers and self-employed person, dan adalah part-part yang lain lah. Okay, part 4, part 5, part 6, part 7. Okay, part 5, 6 dan 7 lah. Okay, untuk part yang keempat, general duties of employers. Ni duties of employers and self-employed person. Provide and maintain safe plans and system of work. That's the duty. And then make arrangement for the safe use, operation, handling, storage, okay, and transportation of substances and plant. Provide information, instruction, training and supervision. Provide and maintains place of work and means of access to and egress from any place of work. Provide and maintain working environment that is safe and without health risk and adequate welfare facilities. And then keep record of injuries and illnesses, and then provide medical exam when required by OSHA standards, and provide workers access to their exposure and medical records. This is the duty of the employers. Dia kena ada semua benda ni kepada pekerja-pekerja dia, to make sure that all the employees is safe. Okay. And then employer must formulate a written statement of his policy on HOSH, enforcement of the safety and health yang diorang dah keluarkan, dan diorang kena buat satu written statement berkenaan polisi mereka kepada OSH. Okay. Not discriminate against workers who exercise their right under the Act, Section 11C. Okay, dia tak discriminate against workers lah. And then the post OSHA citation and abatement verification notice. provide and pay for PPE, okay, personal protective equipment. Okay, diorang kena provide dan bayar, bukannya pekerja itu sendiri yang kena tanggung. Ini adalah duties of employer untuk pastikan keselamatan pekerja-pekerjanya. Dia kena supply benda-benda ni. Okay. And then part 5 is about the general duties of designers, manufacturers and suppliers. First is to ensure plants or substance is designed and constructed to be safe and without risk to health when properly used. Okay. And then arrange for carrying out testing and examination. Adequate information for designers and manufacturers arrange for research to eliminate or minimize hazard. And then safe installation. That is the duty of designer. Dia kena pastikan kesemua design mereka is well designed and well constructed, just to ensure that all the design is safe without risk ataupun lower risk. Okay. Part 6 is general duties of employees. Employees must to take care for the safety and health of himself and other person. Okay. Dalam employer, okay, dalam employer memberi memastikan keselamatan pekerja-pekerjanya, tak bermaksud pekerja-pekerja mereka boleh mengabaikan keselamatan diri masing-masing dan juga orang lain. Okay. Pekerja-pekerja juga ada dia punya duties. Okay. So employees must to cooperate with his employer or any other person in the discharge of any duty or requirement imposed on the employer or the other person by this act. Okay, diorang kena comply all the enforcement, okay, all the enforcement made by the employer. Okay. And then the duties of employees to wear or use at all time any protective equipment, PPE, or clothing provided by the employer. Okay. Employer dah mematuhi rule and regulation of OSH yang di bawah OSH Act, tetapi employees tak boleh mengabaikan enforcement tersebut. Okay. Di mana employer dah provide ataupun supply the protective equipment. Okay. Personal protective equipment, PPE. Then employees have their duties to make sure that they wear or use at all times. Okay, menggunakan PPE itu sentiasa. Kemudian employees must to obey with any instruction or measure on occupational safety and health instituted by his employer or any other person by or under this act. And then they have the right to have a safe and healthful workplace, of course. And then employees have the right to know about the hazardous chemical. Kemudian employees also have the right to know information about injuries and illnesses in the workplace. Okay. So benda ni berbalik kepada FMA, di mana yang kita lihat sebelum ni, notification. Employer must notify any accident ataupun incident ataupun diseases yang berlaku di tempat kerja. Because kalau kita lihat dalam OSHA 1994, okay, di bawah part 6, dia ada kat sini right, okay, hak pekerja untuk tahu, okay, about the injuries and illnesses untuk tujuan keselamatan mereka juga. Kemudian employees also have the right to complain or request hazard correction from employer, and then a right to have training, right to know hazard exposure and medical records, right to file and complain with OSHA, and right to participate in an OSHA. So bermaksud dekat sini, kedua-dua part, iaitu majikan dan juga pekerja, mereka saling bantu-membantu dalam memastikan keselamatan di tempat kerja. Okay, keselamatan, safety and health dan kesihatan. Okay, pekerjaan adalah peranan semua orang, bukan peranan majikan sahaja, tetapi juga majikan dan juga pekerja. Okay. And then part 7, safety and health organisation. Employer must employ a competent person to act as a safety and health officer. Diorang kena ada, okay, safety officer. And then the safety and health officer is to ensure that the Safety and Health Act 1994 is complied in promoting a safe and healthy working environment. And then employer shall establish a safety and health committee when there are 40 or more employees in the workplace, or when instructed by the Director General of DOSH. Yang ini berlaku di fakulti kita FKE, di mana FKE kena establish satu organisation ataupun satu komiti yang dipanggil sebagai Jawatankuasa Keselamatan dan Kesihatan Pekerja, okay, yang bertindak sebagai jawatankuasa kecil universiti, yang membantu jawatankuasa besar universiti dalam memastikan keselamatan dan kesihatan pekerja dan juga penghuni blok, iaitu termasuk juga dengan kepada keselamatan kepada student. Okay. And then the regulation under OSHA 1994, ini boleh juga dicapai dan di-download dari laman web rasmi Department of Occupational Safety and Health. Okay. Boleh dilihat di bahagian sini lah. Legislation, pergi ke regulation, dan di sini ada regulation under occupational safety and health. Just klik kat sini, adalah dia punya regulation. Okay, undang-undang kalau kita nak menggunakan undang-undang safety and health di office. Okay, health officer, bukan office, health officer, safety and health officer. Okay, undang-undang bila kita exposure of chemical hazard to health. Okay, penggunaan chemical. Kemudian notification, macam mana nak notify of accident, dangerous occurrence. Okay, dia ada dia punya regulations dia, procedure, SOP dia. Okay, okay. Kemudian yang ini kat sini regulation untuk kita untuk nak mewujudkan ataupun nak develop safety and health committee dalam satu organisasi. Okay, kemudian regulation untuk macam mana kita nak control of industrial major accident hazard. Lepas tu macam mana kita nak classify ataupun labeling the safety data sheet of hazard chemicals. Okay, ada dia punya SOP dia. Okay, semua benda ni ada di dalam DOSH. Okay. Kemudian the order under OSHA 1994. Okay, di bawah legislation order, ada occupational safety and health di situ. Klik di situ dan ada kat sini dia description of industry required to employ safety and health officer. Okay, safety and health officer, dan juga prohibition of use substances. Okay, yang ini order daripada DOSH sendiri berkenaan dengan keperluan sesuatu premise untuk hire safety officer, safety and health officer, dan juga larangan penggunaan certain substances di dalam premise. Okay. Kemudian the guideline. Okay, guideline under OSHA 1994. Kalau kita lihat kat sini, dia more specific lah guideline dia. Guideline untuk agriculture, macam mana guideline dia. Okay, guideline untuk building, construction and engineering work. Guideline bila nak gunakan chemical. Competency guideline untuk register for competency. Economic, economic general hierarchy, hazard identification. Okay, industrial hygiene, guideline untuk industrial hygiene, industrial safety and occupational health. Okay, jadi kalau kita lihat kat sini, OSHA berbanding dengan FMA, OSHA lebih detail. Okay, lebih meluas dia punya cover dia. Okay, so FMA versus OSHA dari segi scope, approach dan juga objektif. Kalau kita lihat scope untuk FMA compared to OSHA, FMA only cover OSH in the manufacturing, mining, quarrying, works of engineering and construction, but for OSHA cover all economic activities and government except armed force and seafares. Okay, dia cover 90% of the manpower, tapi untuk FMA dia cover 24% of the manpower sebab dia lebih fokus kepada missionary. Okay, and then approach di bawah FMA prescriptive, but for OSHA this self-regulation supported by code of practice, guideline and etc. Okay, three parties responsibilities, worker cooperation and participation. But for FMA, too dependent on government and concern for inspection by regulation authorities. Dia lebih kepada regulation on doing the inspection of the machinery. Okay, about the objective, FMA focus on control of factories and machinery, kemudian legislation dan juga inspection. Less provision for health. But for OSHA, dia punya cover objective dia to safeguard health and welfare of employees and those at the place of work. For example, visitor, contractor dia lebih meluas lah. Okay, dia punya provision dia ke atas keselamatan dan juga kesihatan. Okay, so OSH management system models. Okay, continual improvement. Yang ini model yang digunakan di bawah OSH. Okay, pengurusan OSH, di mana OSH policy bermula dengan planning. Okay, lepas planning baru kita implement. Lepas implement baru kita measure dan evaluate planning kita tu sama ada sesuai atau tidak. Okay, kemudian kita manage dan juga review. Okay, dan benda ni dia looping, circulate. Okay, sentiasa. Ini kita panggil sebagai continuous improvement ataupun CQI, continuous quality improvement. Okay, so end of chapter 2. Okay, so untuk chapter yang kedua ni saya telah dedahkan kepada awak berkenaan dengan dua jenis akta, iaitu FMA dan juga OSHA 1994, FMA 1967 dan OSHA 1994. Dan akta-akta ini ada regulation di bawah setiap akta dan boleh di reach and also downloaded from the official website of DOSH. Okay, awak boleh Google search DOSH dan masuk laman web dosh.gov.my, okay, .com.my, dan di dalam tu semuanya boleh di-download secara percuma. Okay, awak boleh review sebab review lah untuk persediaan awak sebelum menjejaki kaki dalam industri, terutama di dalam LI nanti, latihan industri. Okay, so itu saja untuk chapter yang kedua. Okay, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum.